The Three-Eyed Raven is one of the most interesting and mysterious characters in the entire series, and before we got any backstory on him, he was killed off, so we might not ever get any answers to the questions we have about him. There's some stuff we learn about him in the books, but even with all the book's details, not much has been written about him so far. But what is written about him should make the Three-Eyed Raven one of your favorite characters. His real name is Brynden Rivers, and he's the bastard son of a Targaryen king, Aegon the Fourth, one of the worst kings to ever rule. He was such a bad king, he was nicknamed Aegon the Unworthy. His father earned the nickname Unworthy by making decisions solely based on selfish desires. Aegon was extremely overweight, and his body began to literally rot. Right before his death, he legitimized all of his bastards. That doesn't sound like that big of a deal, but it caused years of wars and thousands of lives. Aegon the Unworthy had two legitimate children, Daeron II and Daenerys, and no, not the Daenerys that we know. But he also had 13 bastard children. One of these bastards were Brynden Rivers. Brynden's mother was Melissa Blackwood, one of the mistresses of Aegon. Melissa was loved and respected in King's Landing, which benefited Brynden growing up. Aegon the Unworthy would go through many different mistresses, and the mistress before Brynden's mom was Barba Bracken. Barba hoped to marry Aegon, but only gave birth to a bastard son, Aegor Rivers. Not only would Aegor and Brynden grow up to be rivals, but their mother's houses, House Bracken and House Blackwood, are rivals to this day. To give you guys some perspective of when this was all happening, Brynden was born in 175 AC, and the story we know takes place around 300 AC. So the Three-Eyed Raven has been around for over 125 years. Everyone believed Aemon Targaryen to be the oldest man alive when he was still kicking, but Brynden is over 20 years older than he was.
How are you feeling? Oh, like a 100-year-old man slowly freezing to death.
He's also actually an albino, with super pale skin, white hair, and even red eyes. He had a red birthmark on his face that some believed to look like a raven, so while he was in King's Landing, he was called Bloodraven. He gave himself the personal arms of a red-eyed white dragon. He was a good fighter, but wasn't built as strong and tall as some of his family. He owned the Valyrian steel sword, Dark Sister, but was known for his archery skills. He used a weirwood longbow. While Bloodraven's half-brother, Daeron II Targaryen, was king, two of their other half-brothers started a rebellion. Daemon Waters created his own house and believed he was the true heir. He started House BLACKFYRE. The sigil is a three-headed black dragon on a red field, the opposite of House Targaryen. His new name became Daemon BLACKFYRE, and he owned the Valyrian steel sword BLACKFYRE, which is usually passed down to each Targaryen king. Aegor Rivers, also known as Bittersteel, was the other half-brother that joined his rebellion. Half the realm sided with King Daeron II, and the other half with Daemon BLACKFYRE. This was the start of many BLACKFYRE rebellions. Bloodraven was on the small council and an expert at gathering information. He quickly found out what his half-brothers were plotting and prepared for war. Lord Bloodraven led a group of archers called the Raven's Teeth, and was able to shoot down Daemon BLACKFYRE and his twin sons from far. His rival Bittersteel continued to fight and charged at Bloodraven. During their famous fight, Bittersteel was able to take one of Bloodraven's eyes. Backup arrived and Bittersteel had to escape to the Free Cities with Daemon BLACKFYRE's 5 other sons. Instead of wearing an eye patch, he left his wound uncovered. Bittersteel, being alive and with all the BLACKFYRE children, worried Bloodraven and made him a cautious man. At any time they could start another war, and they did, causing 5 rebellions in total. After Daeron II died from an illness, his son Aerys became king and named Bloodraven his hand and master of whisperers. He was someone that people feared, and not only because he looked scary, being pale with a hole in his face, but he had spies everywhere like Varys did, and people believed he did magic. A character named Duncan the Tall said, "How many eyes does Lord Bloodraven have?" The riddle ran, 1,000 eyes and 1. Some claimed the king's hand was a student of the dark arts, who could change his face, put on the likeliness of a one-eyed dog, even turn into mist. Packs of gaunt grey wolves hunted down his foes, men said, and carrion crows spied for him and whispered secrets in his ear. Most of the tales were only tales. Duncan did not doubt, but no one could doubt that Bloodraven had informers everywhere. He preferred not taking risks with enemies of the realm. When Bittersteel was captured during one of the rebellions, Bloodraven wanted him dead, but the king decided he could join the Night's Watch. Before he even made it there, he escaped and made it back to Essos to cause more trouble. He would eventually die there, but not before commanding the Golden Company, the sellsword company he founded in Essos, to take his skull with them when they take Westeros for House Blackfyre. In the last book George Martin wrote, A Dance with Dragons, the Golden Company finally, 60 years after Bittersteel's death, sailed to Westeros with his skull, helping a questionable character try and take the Iron Throne. This character is young Griff, who is not in the show and claims to be Rhaegar Targaryen's true surviving son, Aegon. But what he's most likely is a Blackfyre pretender, since the Golden Company are helping him. Back 6 years prior, Bloodraven would serve 2 kings as the Hand and Master of Whisperers, up until it was time to decide who should be the next king. Bloodraven decided to call for a great council to decide which Targaryen should rule, and one of Daemon Blackfyre's sons wanted to peacefully participate. Bloodraven promised him he would be safe to participate, but then had him arrested and killed when he made it to King's Landing. When the Great Council decided Aegon V would be the next king, his first act as king was to arrest Bloodraven for murdering Daemon's son. He believed he was doing what was best for the realm, since there could be many out there who believed the Blackfyres were the rightful heir and would start another rebellion. Brynden Rivers was sentenced to death, but had the option to join the Night's Watch, and he accepted those terms. His archer team, Raven's Teeth, joined him, as well as Maester Aemon Targaryen, who just decided to not become king and let his little brother, Aegon V, have the crown, since he was a maester. After 6 years in the Night's Watch, Bloodraven became the Lord Commander in 239 AC. 13 years later, he would disappear beyond the wall. Everyone believed him to be dead, and there is no mention of his Valyrian steel sword Darksister. But we know he never died. It's pretty wild to believe he's been living beyond the wall for 50 years. It's not stated if he was a Greenseer before his disappearance, but the children of the forest, who he's been living with, call him the last Greenseer. He most likely spent the last 50 years using his green sight to see through the eyes of weirwood trees and see history and current events personally. The fact that he was a great master of whisperers and that he owned a weirwood bow back in King's Landing, and all the rumors of him being a dark sorcerer, lead me to believe he was capable of his power for a while. He's also been communicating with people through magic in their dreams. We only know of Bloodraven speaking with Bran Stark and Jojen Reed, but it would be fair to assume there's been many more. When Bran was in his coma, he told him so he could teach him to fly and guided him through what is called a green dream. He wanted Bran to survive and wake up so he could be his successor as a Greenseer. He visits Bran and Jojen in the image of a three-eyed raven in these green dreams. This is where that name came from. Jojen Reed tells Bran that this raven has been in his dreams since he was a child and knew where he could find him beyond the wall. Both of them only experienced these dreams while near death. Bloodraven has been able to survive 130 years because he's attached to a weirwood in the cave he's been living in with the children of the forest. This prolongs his life, but it seems like it won't keep him alive forever. He doesn't have very much energy, spending most of his time sleeping. This is why he calls for Bran. There are also others attached to weirwoods in the cave they live in, but they're children of the forest, who are even less active than the three-eyed raven. They eat something called weirwood paste that enhances their Greenseer abilities. This paste has red veins that look like blood. Bloodraven has always been someone who will do anything for the good of the realm, whether it be lying, killing, or spying. Greenseers are a huge asset for keeping peace. Looking into the past, present, and future will help defeat the White Walkers and other villains. That's the story of how one of the great bastards of a terrible king became the three-eyed raven. I think this is my first time doing a character profile, so let me know if you guys enjoyed this one. If you did, you can give this video a like and subscribe for more videos to come. There will be a link on your screen right about now for some more Game of Thrones entertainment. Thanks for watching. I'll see you guys next week.